the inbound secret.
My name is Bryce, and I'm your host for The Inbound Secret, where we're talking with top performers and health experts and sales badasses alike about their strategies to optimize their well-being and performance. Once again, this is The Inbound Secret, and let's get rocking and rolling.
This is the inbound. This is the inbound. This is the inbound. The inbound. This is the inbound secret.
What's going on, guys? Bryce Vance here with Virtually Limitless in the Inbound Secret. I've got a very special guest for you guys today. We've got Scott Lipps. He's the CEO and founder of Lipssla. And I just found out, we were talking a little bit before we started the recording, you're still in Courtney Love's band. Is that right?
Yeah, I've been playing with her for about 8 or 9 years. We don't actually, to be quite honest, I don't know when the next time anyone will perform in. So it could be 2022. I feel like this year concerts are probably going to be the last thing to come back. So, yeah, we still play. I mean, the last show we did was a show called Yola Dia. It was with Megan Thee Stallion. It was with Cat Power, Leaky Lee. It was an all-female rock festival. It was great. It was last August, not this past one, the one before that. So, yeah, but hopefully concerts will come back. And, you know, and I think entertainment, people have a real strong desire right now, obviously, to be entertained, obviously, with all the content coming out. And everyone's just hoping at some point they can go back and do what we normally did, go to concerts, have fun, go out, go to restaurants, all that kind of stuff.
I know that's one of the things that I miss the most. And it's one of the things that not only you get to do with Courtney Love in the band and what you do day in and day out, with obviously restrictions to how COVID's changed everything. But Lipssla, you really help influencers, celebrities, models, branding. Like, you set up and help run basically everything that we see for these people. And I know you had a business before that you've left now before starting Lipssla. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I started a company in New York many years ago, 2001, called One Management. And I think that I was one of the first people in the fashion modeling space to work with influencers. So for many years, if I want to rewind even more, I started my career as a drummer many years ago. I moved out to LA. I told my dad I wanted to go to PIT. And my dad said, amazing, you're going to go to the Pittsburgh Institute of Technology. You're going to be a scientist. I was 17. I was a punk kid. You know, I had long hair. I was already playing in bands when I was a kid. Obviously, I looked like I was straight out of like, a teenage version of Motley Crue or Guns N' Roses. And my dad was like, I said, Dad, actually, I'm going to LA. I'm going to go to PIT, the Percussion Institute of Technology. I want to be a rock star. I'm going to drumming school. And he's like, wow, that's not science. That's not definitely not the Pittsburgh Institute of Technology. I guess, from scientist to rock star, it's not exactly what I had in mind. But needless to say, my parents were very supportive. I moved out to LA. I went to music school out there. I got a degree in music. I joined a band out there that was part of the heritage of Guns N' Roses, in the sense that the singer of my band was from a band called LA Guns. That was one of the 2 bands that became Guns N' Roses. So we were pretty big on the Sunset Strip, late 80s, early 90s, did very well, probably one of the top 20, 30 bands. There was some substance abuse and things like that in the band, not from my end, but the band ended up sizzling. I ended up working at record labels, managing companies, played in some other bands, and I wanted to own a record label. I looked up to people like Clive Davis, and I didn't want to just be, the long-haired intern working there, listening to cassettes, trying to find the next group. And so I was like, wow, I like doing this, interning at record labels, and I worked for the Chili Peppers manager, again, interning. And I remember a funny story when I worked for Lindy Getz, who managed the Chili Peppers, and I was only getting paid on Tuesdays. And I used to come in on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I went to them and I said, sorry, I'm, fairly shy. I would love to get paid on both days if that's okay. And the manager's, assistant looked at me and said, Lindy said you can keep coming in like this or not come in at all. So I was like, well, that's my introduction to the business end of entertainment. So I guess I'll either take the 1 day a week pay or not come in at all. So anyway, I did a bunch of those gigs where I was like interning, assisting, low-level jobs. And again, I really wanted to own those companies. So I looked at people like Clive Davis and, all these people I looked up to that were a lot older, but I was like, wow, there's no one in their like early 20s that owns like a label or a management company at that point. I mean, if there was, I really hadn't heard about them. So I kept doing that. And my mother said to me, you have a cousin who's in the modeling industry. Maybe you can work there until your arm gets better. Cause I had an injury playing drums on tour and I couldn't play. I had a little surgery. I wasn't able to play drums, which is really the way that I made a living towards the end for the last couple of years. And so I started working as an intern again, and then eventually a driver at my cousin's agency, driving people around pre-Uber. So people would come into town, mostly models, I guess people some that were like actresses, models, and they needed a way to get to castings. And so I became the driver, and I literally built my way up. I was like, I like music, I like fashion, I like entertainment. I think if I merge all these worlds, this could hopefully be a new take on this business. So I did all that. I became an agent eventually. I ended up running another agency, and then eventually I had my own one management. And the whole time I wanted to forge ahead and try and break new ground, whatever new ground I could break, because obviously that's an industry that's been around for, I guess now, probably 70 years. And so, I think I was the first one, as I think I mentioned, to work with influencers in the space. I started a division years ago in New York to work with influencers. Early on, I worked with people like Rocky Barnes, and we had clients like Carmela Rose and people like that. And I would say, listen to brands, we're going to charge you when people post a picture. And they'd said, well, that's just included in the shoot. They have to do that as part of, as part of the process. And Instagram was probably about a year old at that point. I said, actually, this is advertising. This is not just throwing this extra usage and you get it for free. This is another form of advertising. And now, obviously, it's maybe even a more relevant form of advertising. So it was interesting, it didn't monetize right away. It took a couple years to monetize it. But eventually, I formed a whole division for it in New York. I also started working with celebrities very early on in the fashion modeling space, which, again, a lot of people hadn't been doing. And I worked early on with clients like A$AP Rocky and clients like that on their branding. So from Vogue covers to campaigns like Donna Karan and Ferragamo and things like that. And now I have a great roster of celebrity talent where I look for endorsements, and sometimes they have other representation, obviously, because in this world we live in, people are fielding offers from all over. Hopefully they're not with another company in my same space in LA, because that's really what that's becomes like an issue. If not, then everything we play nice in the sandbox with everyone. I work with a lot of influencers, and also obviously still work with models.
Awesome. So you went from a little kid who had a very similar kind of past to me. I studied music at Boise State, was a performing arts major when I first started.
Nice.
I've played guitar for 16 going on 18 years now, and probably not as much as I should, because I'm for sure rusty anytime I pick one up now.
Yeah.
And so you went from
you got to practice like anything else if you want to stay good, right?
Yeah, I mean, I had the long hair, the face piercings, the painted on pants, the high top chucks, whole nine. And I still love the music scene and the performing arts space, and loved my time there. So you went kind of a similar path that I'm following now, where you go that way and then you tread into the business world, right? You were performing arts. You were a little punk kid that moved to LA to pursue your dreams.
Yeah.
That takes a ton of confidence in and of itself.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that you were a shy kid, and then you became like the transporter for like Hollywood, basically. And the modeling and the shows and the performing artists, and you became a transporter, like a private chauffeur, so to speak.
Uh-huh.
And then transitioned that into, you became their agent.
Right.
And then from their agent, now you specialize in, you were one of the first, if not the first, to say, hey, models, performing artists, celebrities, you need these people's help. And these people can help you do this. And you kind of connected that dot right when Instagram was coming out. Now, one thing that I'm guilty of this, my Instagram's a shit show. Okay. Yeah. I've got 12,000 followers in it, but my engagement at one point it was awesome. And now it's like way down here. So for those listening, I want to cover a couple things. What were the changes that you went through as an individual, your mentality, your emotions, your professionalism, the confidence specifically, that helped you go from that shy punk kid that was, well, can I get paid for 2 days, to, hey, Cardi B, we could represent you and help you become a household name using some influencer marketing and these other things, Because when you
So
look
some
at
of the people that you mentioned, like we don't manage them, right? They have managers, they have record labels. We work a lot with record labels too, and partner up with labels and look for opportunities there. But in answer to your question, honestly, it was a lot about the hustle. I mean, I always liked being able to, travel and do the things that I like to do and really work super hard, but then be able to enjoy myself. And instead of the guy that always saved a dollar, I was the guy spending every dollar I made. I like to live life, and I think I live life to the fullest. But I always wanted to be able to enjoy those nicer things. And I guess, seeing my dad get up at 5 a.m. in New York every morning, go to work. He had an automotive part shop with my grandfather. And the Bronx is a pretty rough and tumble kind of place. I'm sure you might have heard of this movie years ago, Fort Apache, The Bronx. My dad was in some pretty crazy situations growing up. It was a very, very rough place. But I used to go to work with him when I was a kid, and literally my dad would drive an hour and a half into the Bronx from Long Island every morning and not come home till 7 or 8 at night. And hopefully, there's dinner on the table, and that was his routine. But I saw that work ethic, and that work ethic is what pushed me to sort of be who I am. I think a lot of who you are is a reflection of how you grew up in your family. And so, yeah, I went to music school, but also, I really wanted to make my parents proud. I was a good kid. I mean, I never really got into drugs. I worked really hard. It was interesting because even though I was in this band in the late 80s, early 90s that did well, we were on a lot of magazine covers in LA and things like that, the local ones who were not famous worldwide or even, stateswide. We were famous, well known in the LA region. And that's when music and that kind of hair metal and hard rock and Guns N' Roses kind of music was really blowing up. So we were definitely one of the top ends in that genre. But my dad still used to always say to me, "When are you going to get a job, kid?" And I said, "Well, I have a job. I play music." But I don't think because I never made, a lot of money playing music, although my dad had a lot of notoriety here, he saw it as really a real job. I mean, he's old school. He's like this kind of mafioso type character from like Brooklyn. So it was great. About 4 or 5 years ago, I don't remember exactly, but we ended up playing. I joined Courtney's band. We can get into that at some point. We ended up playing the Hollywood Bowl with Lana Del Rey, and I flew my parents out. I don't even think I got tickets. I think I had to buy them tickets to sit on the lawn all the way at the top. But, my parents and my father specifically also got to see me play. And that was probably the pinnacle of my life and my career. And to be honest with you, like, I was finally like, all right, well, if he doesn't see that this all amounted to something in the end, I was super happy and grateful that he got to see that, because that was amazing. And if I never do anything again in music, I feel like, that bucket list thing is checked off, and super thankful I got to do that. Maybe the greatest day of my life. And I was really happy it could come full circle. And so my dad didn't just to get to see me in a local like LA magazine and think I made it, but actually, that I accomplished something in music that I always wanted to.
Well, and that's phenomenal. I mean, he got to see you play with some of the world's biggest performers, and you got to do a local show where he got to come up and experience it firsthand. I think that's fantastic. So we're going to pivot a little bit. We've talked about kind of like a 30,000 foot view of the synopsis of your story, right? From childhood to kind of now. We've talked about some of the accomplishments you've had, some of the things that have helped you kind of level up each phase of your life. Your biggest accomplishment was really kind of just showing to your dad and getting his, like, I'm proud of you, son, right? That statement.
Sure.
Now with what you do today, specifically with influencer marketing for the fashion industry, for brands, for record labels, for musicians, tell me a little bit about how that works. Because to the layman, to the normal person, the small business owner, the entrepreneur, influencer marketing, while we know the term, a lot of people still don't really connect what that is.
So there's tons of brands, from very, very small brands to the biggest in the world, Nike, Adidas, Prada, Gucci, whoever it may be, that, influencer marketing at this point is probably more relevant to them. I think traditional like ads and magazines and things like that. And obviously a lot of them don't even do television, maybe billboards, they're not as effective. Everything is, about going viral. Everything is about having an online presence. And so a lot of times brands either come to us, or in the case of when you're still kind of a relatively new company hustling, you're doing an outreach and you're pitching your talent. So whether it be models with big followings, whether it be influencers, a lot of cases celebrities, whether it be something for Mac or something for, even cannabis. But in the last week, I've literally I'm working on like things for like, you know, it doesn't mean I'm getting them. I'm actively working on pitches like with people for stuff like Mac and cannabis companies. And, you know, there's this like hard seltzer stuff that's happening, brands like Truly and things. There's so many active pitches and active jobs going on. And, you know, essentially I'm going out and I'm pitching clients. So I think a lot of people wait for the phone to ring in this business. And there's a lot of people that are proactive. I've always been incredibly proactive. And for the last 20 plus years, I've had to hustle and I never really waited for the phone to ring. I always went out there looking for opportunities for my clients. So in trying to land, hopefully, God willing, one day a 7-figure deal or a 6-figure deal or even, you know, a $10,000 deal, right? I'm always out there trying to see who I can plug in and tell a story. I think clients right now want a story. So clients definitely want to hear about whether it's a model that has a, you know, a great story or an influencer that has a great point of view, or whether it's a celebrity that stands for something. That's becoming more and more important than just a pretty face. So that's something I'm out there actively doing every day.
So tell me a little bit
about... Is that the right answer to your question, I think?
Yeah, that's perfect, but I'm going to expand on it a little bit.
Sure.
So let's say that, I don't know, let's say that John Smith, random dude, he's in the modeling industry or the fashion industry, and he needs influencer marketing. So he connects with you, you connect him with XYZ. Tell me about how that pathway goes. Do you as Lipssla handle the creative, the copy, the storytelling, what the influencer is going to do? Or do you more play the middleman where you just connect them and then the influencer takes over?
You know, it depends on what stage and, you know, the brand's at and what the brand is, right? Obviously, if they're Nike, they don't need me to do anything other than, you know, give them the right talent they need for their brief, right? If they're a guy named John Smith and he has a new brand called Hot Watches or whatever the brand is, right? Like, I don't know what stage he's at in the process. Is he early on? Does he have a following on social media with his brand? Has he done this before? You know, if people have done it before, then I don't need to explain what I do. I definitely can help with the narrative if I need to. Again, it depends on where the brand is at in their sort of lifeline with the product. We tend to work with more brands that are sort of established. Mm-hmm. So because a lot of the very, very new brands, sometimes they don't have budgets for this kind of thing. And to be honest, like I've worked on, I mean, you know, it's funny because a lot of people now become their own agents and they think, you know, I don't need an agent. I don't need a manager. I'm just going to do this on my own. And they go through, you know, countless amounts of DMs, like people that are like, we want to work with you. And then they write back, and you know, other people want to say, hey, we'd love to give you a free sweater or some free catnip or something like, you know, hard seltzer. And that's great, but you're not going to pay your rent with that. You're not going to grow a business like that. So, you know, sometimes those early on relationships, if you work with a brand and you know, they do seeding, you get stuff for free and you promote it, it can lead to paid opportunities. But, you know, when I go through a lot of my clients' inquiries for stuff like that, 95% of them don't pay. So, you know, again, it just depends. We've definitely worked with brands from the onset, and we've helped with the creative, and we've helped like give them a marketing plan. You know, it's a lot more time consuming to put together decks and PowerPoints and things like that. I mean, I prefer when a brand is already established. I know they have, you know, a budget. I don't have to worry about getting paid. I don't have to worry. You know, we did work with a brand not too long ago for jewelry that a few influencers work with, and the brand like literally like they were supposed to put the money in escrow, and then all of a sudden the money disappeared, and that was that, right? And so you get burned sometimes if you don't, you know, if you don't know clients have a history of like paying and a history, you know, and it's obviously it's a very turbulent time with what's going on in life, right? With the coronavirus and whatnot. So a lot of brands don't have budgets. A lot of brands' budgets have changed. A lot of spend is sort of being allotted in different places. And honestly, like we've never lived through a time like this. So, you know, I'm willing to work, and we're willing to work with anyone in whatever capacity, but we do like to work with people that have been around for a while, are established, and I don't have to worry about anybody like, you know, defaulting on anything, to be honest.
So with your Instagram alone, let's talk about kind of how influencer marketing and how the social side has really kind of developed into this narrative that, like you said earlier, some of the biggest brands in the world take place in, and even some of the smallest. I mean, you look at Kim Kardashian, and her almost entire existence is influencer marketing or influence promotion at this point. And you've got people that are coming in like Dan Fleischman that are sending her multi-million-dollar checks a year to keep these brands up. You've got people like yourself with Lipssla that are doing the same thing with maybe her, maybe other artists, other influencers.
I love her as a client. So if you got a line into her, actually, it's funny because my buddy I was with last night actually works with her, and so yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that. I was saying to him, "Can you get her as a client for me?"
So one thing that I've seen that you've done very well is even on your personal Instagram, and I'll just show it here for everybody to see. You've got 193,000 followers, which is a feat in and of itself, especially in today's world where, I mean, we're inundated with 5,000 to 7,000 ads a day. We're inundated with bots and fake accounts and the vanity followers and the temporary ones. And my Instagram's kind of one of those that has had the ebbs and flows, right? Not a gigantic following. It was far more organic previously than it is now. We've got kind of a fall off. Tell me how you've built your own brand, your own page, and how that's translated into you being able to help at a higher level to your clients.
Yeah, I mean, early on, as I mentioned, when I first started working with influencers, I was experimenting. I think we were all experimenting to see what content worked, right? Whether it be, I would shot pictures for a long time too. So I used to shoot for magazines like Spanish Vogue and Flaunt magazine, and I don't know, probably 5-6 magazines. I had a couple of photography shows. So photography was always an extension. I'm artistic. I'm a drummer. You know, as you know, I do a podcast too. So any kind of outlet that lets me be artistic, whether it be photography or video creation at that point, or, you know, again, this podcast that I do now, this radio show on Dash Radio, they're all creative outlets. So early on, we were all experimenting, even with the clients we had, to see what was working. Were videos working for traction? Were pictures working for traction? You know, could we come up with funny content? I did a few videos early on with like the Fuck Jerry guys. I worked with people and experimented with people. There's a lot of photographers in New York now that are doing well, like Kat Erlin that I worked with early on, like just collaborating with my talent and just to see, again, what would make something go viral? How could we grow accounts? You know, what was working, what was not working? This was in the infancy of Instagram. So even the people that I represented didn't really know it was going to work. And we used to just throw it out there. So some things I did went viral and some things didn't. And I, again, like anything I've done in my life, I just really, really, really hustled. I look at that Instagram as 95% like marketing, right? So like it's your brand, it's your personal brand. I mean, obviously people can, you know, look, I'm a foodie too. I post pictures of pizza, whatever, but ultimately I'm like, I really want to use it to market what I'm doing. So I'm not, you know, I have a company account that we use for the company, but if you notice, there's a lot of times I'll like tag things or, you know, I'll promote something that I'm involved with. Constantly promoting the podcast, as are you, I'm sure, in yours, right? But you got to do things that like engage people. So it's like, if you're going to put up an episode of your podcast, it's like, then you put something up and you say, did you download this? Yes or no? And hopefully you'll have a guest on, like I had on Jay Shetty a couple months ago, you know, probably the biggest inspirational speaker now in America. And hopefully some of the content we did would go viral. And those videos that he posted on his page will drive people back to my page and it goes viral. So it's all about like finding that secret sauce, which I still don't know and I still don't have. And if I had that secret sauce and knew what made something go viral, I probably, you know, would have 75 million followers. But everyone's, I think, just trying to figure it out. But I think the people that are very, you know, determined and driven use Instagram as a marketing tool. I mean, not unlike Gary Vee, right? He's a great example of someone that's taken Instagram and taken his business and built the business off of the marketing aspect of social media. Because before, I didn't know who he was other than seeing him early on through Instagram and all his self-help things. You know, he's sort of like the business version, I guess, of like Jay Shetty, but he really hustled. I mean, again, I don't think anybody would look at Gary Vee's presence online and say, this is a guy who didn't think that the marketing aspect of social media was important. He put his heart and soul and I guess 24/7 into what he's doing there, but it was very successful for him. So I just look at it as an extension like that.
Well, I think that's paramount, especially in today's world. I mean, you look at how business was conducted and how our lives were 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, and look at it today. You've had to have basically the entire economy's had to adapt to what do we do? And those who have adapted technology, who have adapted social media, who have taken advantage of the influence and the power moves that you can do by really just authentically being out there and communicating with your audience when, where, and how they want to be communicated with, are reaping the rewards to some extent.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we met on Clubhouse, which again, it's all about like being like early adapters. And so I think correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like I was speaking on a panel about influencer marketing, and I think you reached out, right? Is that how we met?
Yeah, my partner reached out, Trey. He reached
Yeah,
out to you.
so that's how I met your partner, Trey. So again, like just being an early adapter in the space, and so I was talking on a panel with some other great people in the space that do something similar. But I had just joined Clubhouse literally like a week ago, and now I'm speaking on all kinds of panels and marketing what I do and networking with people, and it's early, and a lot of people I know are just joining it, and literally it's been a week or two since I've been on it. I'm still learning about it, but again, it's about being an early adopter of some of these technologies and just figuring out, again, another thing to market. So I would not be on this podcast if I hadn't decided to really try and hustle now on yet another social media app. And so it's interesting, even with that app, like I see people, even there's a girl that I'm friendly with that's a moderator on some of the panels that I'm on, and she's probably on there for 12 hours a day. And I think she's in business. And I'm like, how do you do anything else if you're on that for 12 hours a day? And I understand there's networking capabilities that comes with Clubhouse, and there's, people raise money through it. But I mean, I definitely do not have 12 hours a day to be on there. I have maybe an hour, definitely more time now with the pandemic than I used to have, but definitely not my entire day just sitting on the app. So it's like, how do you tap into things like that and utilize them, how they work for you and for your business? And so I've always tried to find things like that, especially early on in technology, because I really do like the emergence of technology and fashion and media, and how can it benefit my clients, my company, what I'm doing.
Absolutely. It's funny you bring up Clubhouse, because a good friend of mine, and she's also a client of us, her name's Bree Donofrio, and her company's V by Bree. She specializes in virtual events and virtual speaking, and she's an early adopter into Clubhouse. She, much like maybe the gal you're talking about, they may even be the same person, she's on Clubhouse like 14 hours a day.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't get it. I mean, I get it. I don't get it. And I get it. I don't get how you run a business or do any other business if you're on there that long. It's like, it's a little time consuming, a little bit draining, although there's a lot of good that comes out of it. Just depends on what your angle. If your only angle is just to be on there only to network and you don't have anything else to do, I get it. But I think if you also want to run a business, I don't think Elon Musk is not going to be on Clubhouse for 14 hours a day.
No, I don't think so. So one thing that I've noticed in my life, and we've noticed in most of our clients' lives, the more even micro wins, the more influencers that pay attention to them, the bigger their following, the more their confidence grows in the platform. Do you find that that's something that's been true in your life as well, as you've done this more and more, as you've brought on more clients? Has your confidence in that capability, that platform, maybe that influencer grown as it's been going on?
You mean in terms of like the more clients I have, like am I confident in what I do for them? Is that
not so much in what you do, but confidence all around? Because one of the biggest things that I've noticed throughout getting to know you is you went from a shy little drummer to a powerhouse in the social media placement. And that takes a huge amount of not only confidence in what you do, but self-confidence and capability to know that if Instagram goes away with the snap of a finger, that you can still help these people.
Yeah, I mean, I will say I don't think it's going anywhere. I think there's been talk of it going somewhere the last couple of years, and people have said, what's the new thing? Like, what's the new social media platform that's going to come out? But I think it's been like 10 years now that Instagram's been going strong. And obviously brands, I find the spend now is still, for what I do, more on Instagram than, Twitch, or obviously no one's spending money yet on Clubhouse in that capacity, or LinkedIn, or, people don't really spend that much on Twitter anymore. I don't think in terms of dollar spend. There's some obviously Facebook stuff, but it's still the strongest platform in the space for clients to spend money on. So in terms of like confidence and what I do, I mean, again, I've been doing this now, I guess. I don't want to I still consider myself in my early 20s, although I'm not. I guess I've been doing it for like 25 years. So, I mean, if I don't have confidence now, I probably never will in this space, because, after doing it, starting a couple companies now in space, and, hopefully being very forward thinking in the space, if I don't have confidence in what I'm doing, I shouldn't be doing what I'm doing.
Oh, 100%. So I do have to ask, this is probably going to be one of the most profound statements that I think the listeners and viewers are going to get to enjoy from you. And it really comes down to, if you could have a conversation as you are today with your past self, the shy drummer who wanted to move to LA to chase his dreams, right? What would you share with him, and what would you make sure that he knew and understood going into that path to do what you've done?
You know, it's funny because I always feel like you can't be amazing at everything. And I've always been the creative guy. So I've always been, involved in the art direction, the companies I'm with, and the design. And obviously I'm great with talent, I think. And I am great with clients. So in terms of going out and looking for deals, I never loved the spreadsheets. I never loved raising money. I never loved, when I have to do the accounting. Now, these are all things as like a CEO or owner you have to be aware of. And I never really had that person next to me that I thought was like an equal that could help me with that. And so I've always wanted that. Even to this day, I always kind of welcome that in life and business. So I think that people that are trying to be like the agent, the manager, the publicist, the accountant, the angel investor. I mean, there's only so many things you can be good at or great at. And so, yeah, I guess I just really would probably pay attention more to finding that counterpart who could work on some of those things with me. Because I think a lot of people I know that have done so well in this world, they also have that, right? Like my best friend has a great photography agency, and he always has these incredible CFOs that help him. Now, I've had people that have helped me in that capacity over the years, but I haven't had the person. So I guess I would just really make sure before I start other businesses, I had that person that could really help me through this journey. Because, I never loved like math, and I wasn't into physics and chemistry. And I think sometimes you don't have a brain that covers all those aspects. Your brain is either creative or it's finance. My brother was into sports and finance. I was into music and creativity and everything else I do, right? Eventually photography and podcasting. But I was never like the sports and finance guy. He got that gene. I got the musical artistic gene. So, I can get the deals. I can negotiate the deals. I just don't love, if people throw like PowerPoints in front of me and spreadsheets, especially, I go through them. It's not my favorite thing to do.
So to wrap it up, is it fair to say that you would advise your past self, if you had a conversation with him, to just do what you do best, do what you love, and outsource the rest, or find somebody that can take that?
Yeah, make sure you really spend the time to find that counterpart that you can grow a business with, that you can really entrust in. And I think trust is so everyone struggles with that, finding that person they can entrust in their business and say, hey, take the reins, I'll let you help me with the finances. Like, it's very hard, because I think we've all been in situations where we feel like we've been slighted or maybe screwed over by people in that sense. So it's hard to find that, but I think you need to spend the time to find that counterpart in case you're not amazing at everything. And by the way, who's amazing at everything? Like, most people really, really are great at, a couple things and not everything in the world. So make sure you find that partner in crime that can help you build that in business.
Awesome. I love it. And it's sound advice. I mean, it's one of those things that, like, I'm the same way. I hate the math side of things, right? Like I'm kind of this weird, like, I'll nerd out on the psychology of why people do things. And what we specialize is like omnipresence and affinity-backed neuroscience ecosystems that kind of play very well with influencer marketing. And I'll nerd out on like the psychology there, the NLP, the intent, the affinity of things, the working mechanics, and how the systems work. But like, I don't want to look at an Excel spreadsheet all day. Quite frankly, I hate Excel.
Yeah, well, that's like me. Every time I get one, I'm like, do I really have to open this up?
Yeah. So we've got to wrap up. But before we do, I'm sure we're going to have some listeners and viewers that would benefit from connecting with you, getting to know you, maybe even hire Lipssla LA for their brand, or maybe they've got a connection to an influencer. Tell the people where they can find you, how they can connect with you, reach out to you, find out if they're a good service for you, and find out really how they can benefit from working with you.
Sure. Well, the website for the agency is www.lipps.la, and Lips is with 2 P's, so LIPPS.LA. That's our site. I mean, we do look at all the DMs we get. I'm pretty accessible. I mean, I don't, sometimes you get inundated with like some things people want advice and things like that on Instagram, and I'll help as much as I can, but I don't love to do that. Like, I'd rather people go through the professional route to just email us if you have, inquiries and things like that. So that's how I like business to be done. But, I'm all over it. I mean, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram. I mean, I'm easy to find, and the business is easy to find. And so if anybody wants to get in touch, and, there's contact information on our site, hit us up. If it's something, if you have a budget and it's a solid business, we're always happy to help and hear you out and try and be of assistance.
Awesome. Everybody, make sure you go hit up Scott Lips and Lips LA, the influence marketing powerhouse, especially for you specialize in modeling, music, kind of let's round it out so everybody knows.
Yeah, so we represent models, we represent influencers, and we represent celebrities, and we look for brand deals. So whether it's like digital deals for influencers or straight up gigs for models or big celebrity endorsements, we kind of do it all. And we work with a great array of talent. So from, again, in all those aspects. So we have supermodels, we have people that are just local to LA, we have huge influencers and great big celebrities. So again, it just depends on what someone's looking for and the budget, and if it's right. And I think a lot of these artists, it's about bringing them the right opportunities that fit who they are. So you can't bring them every single deal unless it makes sense and it fits, the DNA of who they are. So, but again, we're open to talking to anyone if it makes sense and it's a serious business.
Right on. Thank you for being on Virtually Limitless and the Inbound Secret, Scott. It's been a pleasure to get to know you. We'll have to have you on again. And then everybody, make sure to stay tuned for another episode of Virtually Limitless and the Inbound Secret.
Check out my podcast.
Yeah, let's drop a link real quick before we stop. Where can we find your podcast?
So it's called Lip Service. It's on Spotify. It's on Apple. If you guys like it, obviously it's great for a review. It's always helpful. And we didn't really touch base on it too much, but we have on everyone. I've had on from Jay Shetty to the Chili Peppers to Kiss to, Tommy Hilfiger this week. So I've had on incredible thought leaders, incredible celebrities, and it's people's paths and journeys. And so it's everywhere. I think most people tend to, a lot that I know, listen to Spotify now for podcasts like yours, I'm sure, and Apple Podcasts, but it's available anywhere. So I just, as you know, the show becomes a lot more discoverable if people rate and review it. So I literally ask Uber drivers, I'm like, hey, do me a favor, give it 5 stars, because you have thousands of reviews, and before you know it, you're on the homepage of Apple. So it's a really interesting show for me to connect with people, and a lot of pop superstars, rock and roll stars, and people that are I think pretty fascinating, and their story and their journey is fascinating.
So I'm going to look it up here real quick so I can show everybody.
Yeah, it's called Lip Service.
2 P's or 1 P in it?
2 P's. And you'll see, I've probably done 80 or 90 shows at this point. Been doing it for a couple of years, and really happy about it.
All right, I just gave you a follow.
Awesome.
And for everybody looking up, I've got Lip Service with Scott Lips introduction. This is what the Spotify page looks like. So if you go in and give it a follow, give it a listen. You've got some awesome people on there. I know I'm going to have to dive on in, take a look. We'll share it out. Make sure you all go follow it, and we will see you later, Scott.
Appreciate it. Have a great day. Appreciate it. Take care.
This is the Inbound Secret.
My name is Bryce, and I'm your host for The Inbound Secret, where we're talking with top performers and health experts and sales badasses alike about their strategies to optimize their well-being and performance. Once again, this is The Inbound Secret, and let's get rocking and rolling.
This is the Inbound. This is the Inbound. This is the Inbound. This is the Inbound.